Good morning, Austin. Can you hear us okay here in the room?
Good morning. I sure can. How about me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you in here as well.
All right.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We'll call the meeting of the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District Commission meeting for the 15th of May to order, 8 a.m. Welcome to all of our guests that are in the meeting room or attending virtually. Cassie, would you like to go through the virtual meeting guidance, please?
Good morning, Commissioners, members of the public, and staff. To help us have a smooth meeting, I'm going to review just a few decorum rules for all. While the Commission and staff are in person, we are still offering a Zoom option so members of the public can attend. If you are attending virtually and would like to speak, you can do so during appearances by the public. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube, and the public chat has been disabled, but you can still message the host if needed. Finally, Commissioners, please use your microphones while speaking and make sure your voice is directed towards the mic. When you're not speaking, please ensure your mic is off, that the light is turned off, so others can utilize the mics. As a reminder, only 3 of the table mics can be live at a time. Also, please state your name before speaking for those who may be joining us via Zoom. Those are the decorum rules of the District Commission. Thank you for following them, and let's have a great meeting.
Okay, thank you, Cassie. Any announcements? None. Okay, so we got the oath of office for our new commissioner, Badri, Lankella. Did I pronounce that well enough? Okay. Our legal counsel will administer the oath.
Can you hear me? Great.
All right.
Okay, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, the undersigned, Badri Lankella,
I, the undersigned, Badri Lankella,
of Madison, Wisconsin,
having been appointed
as one of the commissioners
of
the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District, do hereby swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Badri. You're formal now. Okay. Any appearances by the public? Don't see anybody, either here or online. So we'll move to the consent calendar. We have the minutes of the 24th of April, cash statement capital, cash statement debt service. We have 5 sanitary sewer extensions, review of bids award a contract, engine exhaust silencer replacement, review of bids for gravity belt thickening, building roof replacement, Stera PLC conversion project, Northeast Interceptor Wanakee extension capacity improvements, and authorizing agreement Iconics 3-year licensing and support. I think that's for the SCADA system. Do we have any questions on any of those items before we get a motion? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
This is Commissioner Freeze. I'll move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Freeze, second by
Commissioner Bookland, I'll second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Freeze, second by Commissioner Bookland to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay. That will take us to topics. A is the resolution authorizing and providing for the sale and issuance of up to $7,540,586 general obligation sewage system promissory notes series 2025B and all related materials. And I think we'll need a roll call vote on this.
Yes, that's why it's a topic. We don't have a presentation. It's a roll call vote. And as you saw, this is for the flow splitter, which is that pile of dirt and concrete out the window.
Okay. Anybody have any questions before we get a motion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the sale of the issuance of the general obligation bonds?
Murphy, I'll move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Murphy, second by?
This is Commissioner Freeze, I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Freeze to authorize the sale and issuance of the general obligation bonds. Any comments or questions? Once more? Seeing none, you want to do the roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Bookland?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeze? Commissioner Hovell?
Aye.
Commissioner Lankella?
Aye.
Commissioner Lytle?
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Murphy?
Aye.
Commissioner Pulse?
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. The next is the Nine Springs Liquid Processing Improvements Phase 2. My favorite project. We remember our discussion last time. Caitlin?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Kaylin Hackler-King. I'm a project engineer here at the district, and I'm the project manager for Nine Springs Liquid Processing Improvement Phase 2. And today I'm presenting on the authorization of the increased total project cost. So just a little bit of an overall project background. Simplest breakdown of the plant is that we have the solids processing, and then we also have liquids processing. So we have the solids processing, and then we also have the liquids processing. And back in 2016, there was the liquid processing facility plan, which kind of laid out the breakdown of how the different phases would be divided into. So back in 2021, phase 1 was completed, and that was to address the hydraulic capacity of the plant, or how much liquid or flow can go through the plant without overtopping tanks. Phase 2, which is our current project, is to address how the treatment plant treats the nutrients coming into the plant. Between now and 2050, we're looking at increased loads in nutrients. So we need to address how our biological treatment system operates, as well as aging infrastructure relating to that process. And in the future, we will be addressing any headworks facility upgrades. So why are we doing this project? Like I said before, we have the loadings that are going to be increasing between now and 2050. And a lot of the equipment related to the biological nutrient removal system, it's well beyond its design life and also in declining conditions. And in order to continue treating the wastewater to meet our permit compliance, upgrades and replacements are going to be necessary. So this slide might look a little bit familiar. I did present this slide back in the November 14th meeting, but just to kind of refresh everyone on what the overall scope of work we're looking at. Just to give us a little point of reference, up in the upper left-hand corner, that's the maintenance facility. That's where we're at right now. Anything highlighted in a red box is tanks or buildings that are going to be affected by the scope of work of this project. And I won't get into quite as much details as the November 14th commission meeting, but just know that we are upgrading the biological nutrient removal activated sludge system. There's going to be additional baffle walls, new sensors, new valves, new diffusers, new electrical work. We'll also be upgrading all of the blowers. So we have 7 blowers currently. We will be removing those and replacing them with brand new high-speed turbo blowers. And those are what supply air to the biological nutrient tank to keep the oxygen levels at their targets and goals. We'll also have some new smaller blowers for channels that don't require as much air for mixing purposes. So that'll be in the headworks building. So that's that little tiny part with the headworks, as well as throughout some of the tunnels. We will be cross-connecting the aeration system. So currently we have the blower building 2 for the west plant, blower building 1 for the east plant. So for redundancy purposes, those will be cross-connected, as well as just some basic HVAC and electrical upgrades to accommodate those new blowers. And then a new reaeration tank right outside of the effluent building to make sure that we're meeting our DO permit. And then where we are at the design in this process. So right now we're at the start of detailed design. Back in November is when the preliminary design was completed, and so that's when we shifted into detailed design, with bidding to be anticipated in June of 2026, and then construction to be complete in 2029. At the November 14th commission meeting, we did talk about how there was additional assets that we were looking into needing replacement, and that we were beginning an even more thorough process of inspecting and investigating those assets. So overall, we started out with a list of 800 assets relating to the activated sludge system or the blower system. This list was thoroughly vetted by both district staff and consultants, and from the 800, we narrowed it down to approximately 280 assets that were recommended to be included within this project based off of their condition and criticality. Not only did we investigate the historical data of these assets, but we also conducted visual inspections broken down into 4 different meetings. In March, the final list of assets with the anticipated costs associated with them was presented to the executive office and recommended the addition of the additional assets to the project scope. So overall, the proposed total cost increase for Nine Springs liquid processing improvements is $15.9 million in inflated dollars. $9.2 million can be in 2024 dollars can be associated with the 280 additional assets. Keep in mind that this overall cost includes the capital cost, installation costs, mechanical and electrical work costs, anticipated contractor fees, contingencies, anticipated cost increases related to BABA compliance, as we're anticipating this to be a Clean Water Fund project. These assets are not only beyond their design life, but they are also crucial to the operation of the activated sludge system, which require major plant shutdowns and coordination, or the repairs are also required just for general construction sequencing to occur. We also had the district staff costs that had previously not been included within the total project budget, and this adds up to $2.3 million in 2024 dollars. Also, the necessary duration of design and construction has become more apparent over time. which extends the project into 2029. We also have that the inflation rate originally was lower, but due to recommendations by the consultant, especially with the uncertainty of how the economy will look in 2026, the inflation rate has been increased for this project. There is more financial information that can be found in attachment 1, the financial information to the CAR. Also, I just wanted to mention that the 2026 CIP may slightly vary from today's total project cost presented. The consultants are continuing to work on this design, updating costs with manufacturers and fine-tuning those numbers. And they anticipate getting that done just in time for the 2026 CIP, but we wanted to present the total project cost that we have now. Then next up, I have some examples of some of the additional assets that were requested to be added to the scope of work. So right here, we have an example of a gate that is in failing condition, making it difficult to operate and unreliable. This gate isolates between plants 3 and 4 of the West plant, and it's crucial for shutdowns to isolate the plants to perform work safely. The picture on the left shows a gate that is meant to isolate and hold back water, but due to substantial damage has major leaks. You can see there's quite a bit of flow going through that. So without repairs and replacements, we cannot isolate those and not perform construction. That is the gate closed in that picture. Look like it's submerged and doesn't. It's open. Not much different than that, though. And there were areas within the plant that we were assuming that some of the aeration piping could be reused. So during this visual inspection, there were some areas of the aeration piping that had more damage than anticipated that we needed to include within this project. In particular, in the basement of lower building 1, that picture on the right, you can see it looks bright in that picture. It's a very dark corner of the basement of the lower building that is not often seen by people. So during our inspection, that was one of the sections that was recommended for replacement. We don't often have the ability to shut down large sections of the aeration system at a time. So having this coordinated with the overall project that already is shutting down the aeration system provides us a really good opportunity to make these repairs and replacements. Right here, I have a few examples of the return activated sludge and waste activated sludge pipes and valves that, although were not originally included, have significant signs of corrosion and deterioration, making us skeptical of whether or not these pipes will last until 2050. Again, we will have large-scale shutdowns, making this the best opportunity to have these sections repaired and replaced in this project.
You know how old those pipes are that have the rust that out of the large one or go into?
Off the top of my head, I don't have an exact date, but I expect that they're between 40 and 60 years old currently. And then in these pictures, we have the return activated sludge pumps on the right and the waste activated sludge pump on the left. They were not originally included within the design scope. These pumps require major plant shutdowns, and their ages range from 40 to 60 years as well. and these pumps have an expected design life of 30 years. The pumps in the photos, those ones are 40 years old. They're both located in Aeration Control Building 4. And these pumps will need to be replaced during the design life of Phase 2, whether or not they are included in this project or done separately. Replacement during this project, which again has major shutdowns, makes it much easier to replace. And then also, especially with pumps, there's also a contractual construction warranty when they're installed during construction, as opposed to when the district staff replaces them in-house.
Quick question. Can you even get, this probably isn't a question for you, it might be for Eric or somebody, or Alan or somebody else, but can you even get parts for these pumps if they, or do you have to fabricate parts if they fail right now?
So Eric Dundee, Executive Director, I would say you heard that the design life, you know, is shorter than what they're at now. I'm just going to tell you our maintenance staff is pretty good at their job. They're able to keep these going, find the parts they need, scavenge parts. We have different locations around the plant that have our obsolete inventory where you can get things. I don't know about these specifically, but this is not an uncommon occurrence for the district.
Today, I'm requesting that the Commission to authorize the increase of total project costs from $76.15 million to $92 million. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Patrick, go ahead.
So I noticed that, sorry, Commissioner Lytle, I noticed that in addition to the budget increase, we're talking about an extended project duration. I'm curious as to whether the extended duration is being driven more by the increased scope of the capital project, or whether it's kind of an acknowledgement of our challenges with getting capital projects executed in a timely manner, given our staffing and all that.
I would say it's kind of neither of those. I would say it's part of it is it's just an acknowledgement of the size of this project and the how long the design and the construction is going to take for a project of this size. So I would say that would be the case even without this additional stuff in there, even the original scope. You know, as we were in preliminary design and then we were scoping out final design with the consultants, we were like, okay, you'll have plans and specs ready, you know, next June. And they're like, no, there is no way we can get this design done in this amount of time. It's going to take until, but okay. So acknowledging the design duration, and then also just getting, you know, as we get things scoped, getting a better handle on how long the construction of those things are going to take.
So just a quick follow-up. So we're kind of seeing that at the commission level, the schedule changes in terms of the cash flow of the project. But you all are kind of making those adjustments for all the projects in the pipeline, recognizing kind of feedback we're getting, the scale of the projects we're executing, any challenges we have with staffing and aging infrastructure. So this may just be one example of where you're kind of rebaselining projects.
Agreed. I mean, I think as we're working through the CIP for this year, probably we're showing our schedules a little less aggressive than we had in the past. I think our tack before was like, make sure we're, you know, with this, we were probably optimistic on schedules to make sure we had the money, right? And so, but I think what we're trying to do now is show those schedules again with our crystal ball, that remembering that we're doing the CIP for next year, like now. So it's a long time ahead of when we really, you know, we learn a lot of things between when we start working on the CIP for the year and when the next year actually begins. You know, a lot of things change in the meantime. But with our crystal ball, we're doing our best to make those schedules a little more realistic, factoring in procurement delays, those sort of things that we are seeing.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, Dan, go ahead.
Commissioner Pauls, I'm not an engineer. I'm an accountant. I play with numbers all day long. Is there any way, by throwing more people at this, get the design done by the end of the year? Because I'm just saying, because every time you wait 6 months in this size projects, you got inflation of about $1 million. So if you could spend $200,000 to save $1 million, that makes a lot of sense.
Our consultants have told us, I mean, we have a contract with them already of when, you know, of the work to be done, and they've told us we can't do it. This is when we're going to have it done. This is when we're able to have it done by. So, I mean, maybe if we threw more money at them, but like
I'm just saying we have to look at the cost benefit, or maybe find a different consulting firm or engineering firm, because waiting longer and longer costs us $1 million every 6 months. That's a lot of money. That's just the numbers from my head by doing it quickly. So I'm not an engineer, so.
I mean, I have to believe them when we hear the same thing when we talk with other consultants too, that this is what it takes to get these projects done. It's a lot of work. You know, we're going to end up with a plan set that's this many pages and 3 volumes of specifications. I mean, it's a big project.
So, Lisa, just a question. I'm not questioning the amount of design work. I've seen your documents. So the question I have is more contractual, because in complete honesty, we fail at this all the time at the city, right? We hire a consultant and we give them a deadline. So my question is your consultant meeting the deadline? Are they meeting what they said they would do in the contract? Yeah, and we had a unique. You may remember we did this starting with the previous director of engineering. The contract was structured a little bit differently than some we've done in the past, where we sort of scoped out preliminary design. You know, the issue is sometimes it's hard for consultants to give you a price to design what they don't know yet what they're designing. You know, so we kind of did it in chunks. You know, which we've had mixed success with, I would say, that solved some problems and caused others, basically. So, you know, we talked about that a little bit when we did the final design amendment in the fall, kind of how we kind of chunked it out. But yes, as of, you know, the contract that we have with them, as of, yes, we're scoping out final design. Yes, that is what it was agreed upon. That was the time when we went through that exercise of talking about what's in the scope, what's it going to take, how were we able to do this, how long is it going to take? And yes, they are on track.
Okay, so follow up on that. Did we have to increase the time frame because of our increased scope, or were they able to?
No. The time frame? Yeah, okay. I think that you know, even without this increase, we knew every project like this, there's going to be stuff where it's like, yeah, it makes sense to do this with the project. You know, this ended up being more than we thought, but they were already anticipating doing that.
I understand what you're saying, but what Patrick and Dan were getting to is the fact that we're hearing a lot of pressure from our customer communities that we're collecting money up front for projects that take longer and longer to complete, and that seems like we've not been matching our monetary resources with the length of the project. You know what I mean? And so we get criticized for our capital projects being off kilter, collecting more than we needed at that point because you're taking longer to do the project. Whatever the cost, whatever the reason is. So I just want to make, you know, everybody in design aware of the pushback that we've been getting from our customer communities regarding this, and that's why Patrick and Dan brought up the question. Dan's question is very relevant. If you're spending $1 million every 6 months on inflationary costs, the firms have the capacity. If we say, if we give you another $150,000, can you speed up plans 6 months? Maybe not. I don't know, because I know how detailed they get. It's more a statement. I do have 2 questions. So talk about the 800 assets you reviewed. You had about 280 that you selected. So you got like a difference of 520, right? So what I don't want to have happen is 8 years from now, project's done in what, 5 years? 2 or 3 years after the project's done, that some of these 520 assets start failing. We need to do another large project because of those failing. So you have high level of confidence that those 520 assets that were ruled out will have significant length of time. I don't know what that would be, but I say 10 years or more.
I would say our approach was we were trying to look at, of these things, which of these things aren't going to make it to 2050. That was kind of our approach. So are other things going to break? Yes, they are. Is this everything? This is an old plant. You know, there's going to be stuff. I'm not going to stand here and tell you every single thing is going to be.
But we have breakages every day, right?
Yeah, right.
So, but I'm saying.
But that was our approach. That was our approach of like, okay, what's not going to make it to 2050? What needs to be replaced now?
Okay. Then my last question is on the last attachment in the packet. You had so I'm trying to understand this. The base project was originally at $65.2 million. This total project cost before and after.
That's the 2024 number,
okay,
right?
And so I'm trying to understand what happened here. The increased project scope took it from $65 to $76 million.
Yes.
Okay, so $11 million increase.
Yep.
And then what you're saying is the inflated dollars is $15.9 million.
Correct. Yeah. So that's why the numbers, right.
So the estimation of inflation is $4 million more.
Yes.
$4 million more than the project scope. Increase in project scope.
That's everything. So that's inflation, not just of the additional stuff, but inflation of everything.
Right. I understand that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's harder if you're looking at adding up little pieces. That's kind of in the $2024. But if you add those up, then the total number is more than that. Well, why is it more than that? That's what we were trying to show.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to show the inflation.
And I think that gets to Dan's point about how much inflation. If we don't know what inflation is going to be, and I think
we don't.
You were doing these numbers at the time when tariffs on China were 143%. And now for 90 days they're less. Who knows
what will happen? Yes. But I mean, we and Bill can probably speak to how we inflate, numbers in our CIP and all of that. But I think Kaylin called attention to the fact that we inflated this one at a little bit higher rate just because of what's going on right now. But on Strand's advice, and also, we don't know what will happen, but this is our best guess.
They don't want to be seen as coming to bid time in 2026 and all of a sudden having the project be. They told us, say, the project cost was going to be $80 million, and the project bid comes in at $90 million. People would really be pretty ticked. Why did you miss that? Now, here, if the project is estimated at $92 million and it comes in at $80 million, we might be ticked too, just in a different way.
We'll see when we bid it. I mean, that's really when we know how much it's going to cost.
Dan's issue is that the longer a project takes to construct, the more uncertainty there is to the contractor in terms of project costs. So they're probably having to inflate costs. Metals, steel, whatever.
Correct. They do that when they bid a project. They look at how long it's going to take, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. That's my rant. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Seeing none, we don't need any, authorization, so we need a motion to approve.
This is Commissioner Meyer. I'll make the motion to move the resolution authorizing increased project costs.
Motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by
Commissioner Freeze. I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Freeze for an authorization total project cost for liquid processing improvements phase 2 up to $92 million. Talking some real change here now. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we move to the Professional Services Agreement Amendment for Enterprise Resource Planning. And Bill's happy that Dana Reed made it in.
Good morning. I'm Dana Reed, Director of Enterprise Services, and hopefully I have a colleague online, Austin Nichols, who is with our consulting partner, Virridy. He's here for questions. So today I have for you approval of a transaction amount and a professional service agreement amendment for our ERP implementation project. We're going to go over progress during Q1 and Q2 of this year. The last time I was here with an ERP project update was January, so there's a lot of activities that have happened in the last couple months. And then we'll discuss what's in the Virridy contract amendment as well as next steps for this project. Oops, let me go back. So I always bring this slide when I come in so you can see where we are. Overall in this project, we are in the selection of software and services phase, which is actually phase 3, even though you see 4 green phases up there because the first phase was phase 0. The contract amendment that we are bringing to you today is for the last phase, implementation, which we'll be moving into soon. So the last 2 quarters, as you may recall, we released our RFP out to the vendor community in December of last year, and we had 8 vendors respond. That's about what we expected. We thought we would maybe have 5 to 10. So we were happy with that response rate. There's quite a variety of companies and software proposed in those 8 proposals. So it was overall very good response and variety. The evaluation team evaluated the 8 proposals and scored. That was our round 1 scoring. And from that, we identified the 3 top scoring vendors that we invited in for on-site demonstrations, and I'll give you a little more detail on those demonstrations in a minute here. And then we are currently completing reference checks of our top vendors, as well as we've asked the top 2 vendors for a best and final offer. That is due tomorrow. So the evaluation team will reconvene next week and finalize scoring, and we intend to have a preferred vendor next week. I'll be back to the commission with that. And I see Austin now down in the corner, so that's Austin Nichols. I want to give kudos to the RFP evaluation team because this was a lot of work outside of their regular day-to-day work. The proposals altogether were over 1,500 pages to dig through and score, and the demonstrations were over 8 days. So thanks to all of them for participating. The vendor demonstrations started March 31st. Our first vendor was Tyler Technologies, and the software they proposed was Tyler ERP. Each vendor got 2.5 days on site. We were in this room with them for all these days. They demoed each module that they proposed, so about 15 modules. And during each of those sessions, we had subject matter experts across the district participate as appropriate. So you might have a module on time and attendance or accounting or purchasing, et cetera. And then we also had a discussion with them on what their implementation plan is. So we saw the software, and we also talked to them about their implementation approach. And so we talked about Tyler was here first. The second one was Apps Associates, and they proposed Oracle Fusion Cloud. And then the third was Strata, and they proposed Workday. So here's Austin on the right there. So we've been in a contract with Virridy for a little over a year now to provide consulting expertise and support on the ERP project. This picture was when they first came in last year and did a tour of the plant. So we signed the contract for phases 0 through 3 last year, but the RFP and the contract had an optional Phase 4 amendment that would be negotiated by the district depending on vendor performance, which we are highly satisfied with Barry Dunn's performance over the past year. And then also, when we first signed this contract, it would be impossible for us to negotiate a Phase 4 amendment at the time because we didn't even know what we were going to be purchasing. We didn't have our requirements. We didn't know the scope and complexity, the resources needed, and the training and change management that would be needed for the project. And we have a good handle on all of that now. So this is the perfect time to do the Phase 4 amendment. This is the Barry Dunn Phase 4 project management approach, but I want to take a minute here and discuss what makes ERP projects successful. 50% of ERP projects fail. I probably said that here before, and the reason I say that is because it's good to keep us intimidated by the project. These are not easy projects. And I was involved in an ERP project at the state of Wisconsin. Some of you may know about that project, as well as I've talked to colleagues and organizations that are going through an ERP right now, including we just talked to Milwaukee Sewer last week and the city of Milwaukee. And for me, there's really 3 key factors for our success here. One is executive support. And we have that through the commission approving the project and the budget as part of the CIP. We also have Eric Dundee and Bill Walker as executive sponsors, and that's really important because these projects fail when they're IT projects or accounting projects. This is a business project. It's for all areas of the business. So that's the first factor. The second, which we know is going to be difficult during implementation, but we are dedicated to this approach, which is that we will change our business processes to meet the software. These softwares are built upon industry best practices, and so we will do our best to re-engineer our processes, and that's something that Barry Dunn has experienced with helping organizations with. And then finally, which is why we're here today, is that you cannot do this in-house. You cannot do this alone. You need to hire expertise to get this project done. And so that's why we have the engagement with Barry Dunn. I'm going to show you, let's see here. I'm not going to read all of these, but here's the services that are in the contract amendment. Barry Dunn will act as the project manager for the district. It won't just be one person, though. It's the Barry Dunn team that we are hiring. They will do all the project management activities for us. They will establish and utilize a project governance structure to enable decision-making over the course of implementation. This one's key, reviewing the budget and any proposed change orders from the vendor, as well as I heard in the last presentation a question around monitoring contract compliance and who's holding the vendor accountable. That will be Barry Dunn doing that. So that will be important for us. And then providing change management services. So another success factor is really spending time on change management. You can implement a system, but if users aren't trained and don't adopt it, is that a successful project? So we know we need to spend time on change management, and we do not have in-house resources to do that. So Barry Dunn will provide those services. And then when we get into architecture and configuration, I talked about business process improvements. Barry Dunn can recommend those to us. They've done this with many local government and utility organizations, so they have that experience, as well as participating in system configuration sessions and verifying and validating the vendor deliverables. And then when we get into the last part of implementation, which is testing, and then training, they will review vendor testing and training plans, participate in data conversion validation, and also be here post-go live for us with services. So next steps, I mentioned the evaluation team meets next week to identify a preferred system implementer and a software. We'll be back at commission to present that to you, and we'll be doing contract negotiations, which Virridy will also be assisting us with. We expect that to take 2 months, hopefully. It won't be an easy process, probably. And of course, we'll be working with Stafford on the district side as well. So if all goes well, we are hoping to kick off implementation in September. So with that, Austin and I are here for questions.
Okay, Beth, go ahead.
Commissioner Bookland, so I'm curious about the post-live services that they're going to offer because, you know, once it's implemented and the change management, but really managing, you know, how this is going forward long-term and any issues that come up after, how will that be managed?
Austin, I'm going to let you do this one.
Sure. So it's a combination of services that we'll provide, and then what we've seen from the proposing vendors, the software vendors, is something that we often hear is hypercare, right? So you're live on the system, you're using the new software, but you've got a dedicated team from the software provider to make sure that any challenges, bugs, configuration changes that need to be done are there. From our perspective, our last deliverable in our statement of work is what we call a project closeout memo. Oftentimes in the ERP project, there are things that must be configured and ready to go live on day one. There are some things that are less of a priority, and maybe it's timing of when the project goes live, perhaps it's budgeting or it's W-2s at the end of the next fiscal year or calendar year that we'll document in a project closeout memo. And just depending on the amount of hours left in our contract, right, we can help implement and provide that same level of oversight of any of those action items that are still outstanding from that time where we consider the system live. So it's really a combination of the support provided by the software vendor in that time, that kind of what we call stabilization period, as well as our team continue to support the district on those items that are documented in our final deliverable, that closeout memo.
So, yeah, thank you. So I'm still curious about the vendor and how they would provide long-term support, and if there's changes that need to be made, you know, going forward, how would they manage that?
Yeah, so the district, and we'll get through this in contracting. There are a few different models. I mentioned the hypercare, right? There's usually 60 days. It can be negotiated into a longer term where you have the actual project team that's in the room with the district through implementation, direct line of communication to the ones that actually help the district configure the system in that time of hypercare. There will be a maintenance and services contract with the vendor as well. Typically after that hypercare period, there's a handoff to the software support team who then would, as the district identifies bugs, challenges, perhaps changes, you know, a new report or a new workflow, would then request that support through the standard support channels with that vendor. So there would be an ongoing support and maintenance contract with the selected vendor as well.
This is Commissioner Lankella. Thank you, President Hubble. Thank you, Donna, for providing this presentation here. I know I'm coming late into this, and I don't know all of the background on this project, but looks like you haven't selected the vendor yet, right? So there is still vendor selection process still going on. Mm-hmm. And the ask here is to have project management done by the vendor here or the staff, having an in-house staff doing that project management, right? So
yes.
Wouldn't that be helpful to know based on what vendor we select, right? So expertise, especially I worked with all of three vendors in the past, Heller Tech and Oracle Fusion and Workday. There's a wide range of expertise needed. I know definitely it's niche products out, and having a in-house staff is very difficult to have. I totally understand but the point of long-term support, these products, ERP products, I would say it's like a Gillette razor, right? They'll give you for a very cheap price the razor, but the blades are very expensive. And that's what we have to think about, is we need to see what product we are selecting and what are their maintenance going forward, right? Based on that, having an in-house staff long-term might be helpful. And again, as you mentioned, it's very difficult to get, depending upon Oracle Fusion, it's difficult to have product that is actually phasing out a lot of their products right now, Oracle Fusion. Solar Tech is new in the market. They're dealing with the state of Wisconsin, so I have some there too, but they're new in the market, so they're learning a lot of things from the new customers that they are having. Workday is all cloud-based, and depending upon what kind of vendor selected, I think this question of whether we should have a staff or at the project management will be helpful. I think this discussion, if we can have it after the vendor selection, I think that will help us. That's my point.
Yeah, a couple things. One is that Barry Dunn will be providing a project manager that has implemented the software we select, regardless of which software we select, even though I'm pretty sure I know which software we're going to select. I just can't say officially today. So that would be the first thing. So we'll get someone experienced in that software. But, and Austin can speak to this too, but they have experience implementing all three of these. So regardless of which one of the three we choose, they have the experience to help us. As far as in-house, we don't have any in-house project management resources right now, so we would have to go out and look for that. My experience with hiring technical positions at the district, it's difficult to find, especially probably going out in the Madison market and saying, we need you to be a project manager of this software, this amount of experience, and then we also run the risk of turnover, something that we don't have if we have a third party.
Yeah, definitely agree. And you understand, even Austin Very Dawn is also not in Madison-based company, right?
Correct.
So I think staff hiring in these things could be anywhere in the U.S. So it doesn't have to be Madison-only staff, too. If you're thinking about staff hiring and the retention is a
yes.
Another point to consider there. And yeah, that's
okay. Dan? Commissioner Paul, I guess I'm a little bit confused about this solution. The total project's still $6.1 million, and we're just carving out $800,000.
Correct.
Is there enough left at the end of the day to pay the rest out of the $6.1?
To pay for the software?
Software
yes.
implementation. And then I don't see, do you have anything for adding FTEs? Because you're going to need FTEs by doing this. Is that in this or not?
So we're going to be doing backfill of key positions, for instance, accounting. So we'll do some backfill of accounts payable and payroll, possibly, and those will be contracted services, and that will come out of the $6.1 million.
What is a part of it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Patrick?
Thank you. Commissioner Lytle, I guess a comment and then kind of a more detailed question. I don't want to speak for the rest of the Finance Committee, but I think staff has done a really good job of pressing on us how important getting a new ERP is, along with the risk the district is under by not having that system in place. So I do appreciate, you all have conducted, with the help of Barry Dunn, a very structured, thorough evaluation process. And I think, you never know if you're going to do everything right, but I think we've been deliberate and cautious in the implementation. So you all have done the right things to maximize our chances of success. The proposal from Barry Dunn on page 7 has a breakdown of implementation project management task, implementation project oversight task. I didn't read the proposal in detail, but it looks like those were presented as two options in terms of level of service, level of support, and we selected the project management level of support.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I got a couple questions. You know, I was thinking about this after our Monday meeting, and so I figured, say this last 18 years, spending $6.1 million, and that's probably not even including what Badri was saying about the maintenance that you occur. It's like you use that one. My analogy is buying an inkjet printer, get 30 sheets out of the inkjet, and then you're spending almost the cost of the printer to get the toner, or it's buying a battery for a cordless drill, and you need a new battery, and the new lithium battery is more than the cost of the original drill and battery. So I don't know what that's going to cost per year, but but I was thinking that $340,000 a year, that's $6.1 million over 18 years. And that's a lot of money. Now we're spending $801,000 for Barry Dunn for phase 4, right? So what have we spent? What was their prior contract?
$150,000.
We're spending another $801,000 in that. So my question is, when it gets to your basic first statement was that 50% of these fail. And when you say fail, I don't know what you mean. If the whole thing fails, or if there's pieces, sections, or whatever fail, I don't know. But is there a guarantee from Barry Dunn spending $801,000 that we're not going to be on the 50% failure, we're going to be on the 50% success? That's what we need. Because otherwise we would have spent $800,000 for no reason at all if it fails.
Well, I can't say with certainty that we couldn't still fail because there's other factors. But I think we'd be in a much better position. Austin, did you want to say anything about maintenance? Because we will be negotiating that as part of our contract, and so it is in the $6.1 million.
Yeah. Thank you, Dana. So with an ERP initiative, we sort of categorize the cost into two buckets. You have your one-time costs, right? Your upfront costs, the implementation costs. So it's project management, the professional services from the software vendor or implementer, which would be, the design, the configuration, interface development, data conversion, testing, training, all the things to get you live, right? Build as incurred, one-time costs. That's sort of one bucket. And then we have the ongoing annual subscription cost. That would be subscription to the licensing of the software and then the maintenance of the software, right? The maintenance and support. That would be your annual ongoing cost for as long as you use that system. So kind of the one-time cost, the upfront cost, and then the annual ongoing subscription cost have all been planned for in that initial budget request. We plan these for a 10-year term. Historically, that's where we see from a cloud-based or a software as a subscription base, which is the deployment model the district is going with. That's where we see the cost normalize from a traditional kind of on-premise where the district owns the server hardware and infrastructure for the software. That's where we see those upfront hardware and infrastructure costs sort of normalize. So that's why we always capture the 10-year costs. Certainly, we'll negotiate the term of the contract and the agreement, as well as the renewal process with the vendors. And so that will be part of the contract is the initial term, how many years, and cost certainty of those annual subscription costs. And then what do those renewal processes look like, and what are the caps on the percentage increases as well?
Can I quickly go back to your question, President Hubble? Because while I can't guarantee that we'll be successful with Barry Dunn, from what I've seen, I can guarantee we won't be successful without a third-party partner doing this project management for us. I don't see how we could be successful with this project just doing it with in-house resources.
Badri.
Thank you, President. This is Commissioner Lankella. The total cost, including implementation and maintenance, is $6 million. Is what
we don't have the cost right now, but that's what the budget.
Budget is
the budget.
$6 million. That includes every module, especially they come up with every module, and if you keep asking for more reporting modules, they will be added more additional, right? So is that all be covered under is what you're targeting?
Yes.
And which also includes the upload and downloads and all of that, right? So it's traffic based on usage is what they will actually start charging.
Yep.
Our usage could go up for 1 year and could be go in a few years, and number of users hitting that traffic, and those are all be included in it. And the life cycle, what is that life cycle is going to look like? How long the product will be? 4 years, 5 years?
Yep, so it'll be a 10-year contract with the option to renew after 10 years. So the cost that we'll be bringing to the commission when we start doing the contract negotiations will be for the 10-year cost.
You're also considering on-premise or cloud, or is everything cloud?
Everything's cloud.
Even Tyler Tech is everything cloud.
That's what they proposed, because we did not allow on-prem proposals.
Yeah, that's the one worry I always had with ERPs is that the modules, as we, right now, you say we apply to this, and then in that 10-year contract, if we wanted to add additional modules, if we needed additional reports, when don't have the in-house abilities to do those, they'll be charging us additional hours, and those will all be additional costs than your regular implementation and also the maintenance costs. So it just good to see what all your budgeted with actuals that's going to coming up, and with all the modules. I think that would be a good thing to have.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did a really good job with the requirements of right-sizing which modules we need and don't need, and then we further refined that after the demonstrations. We sent a best and final offer to 2 vendors. We did take out a module that we decided we won't need, and so I think we have a really good determination of the modules we need. But you're right, if we decided we needed an additional module in a couple of years, we would have to purchase that from the vendor.
Okay. So again, what's the time frame for when it goes fully operational?
It will be around 18 months.
Okay, and then how do we know if it's successful or failure? How long after that 18 months?
Austin, you want to take this one from what you've seen with other organizations?
Yeah, I sure will. I think successful, right, is a little subjective. I think going live on the system within the 18-month schedule is a success, right? Configuring, going live, using the system, that is successful. That's something to be celebrated. I think there's certainly, once the dust settles from implementation, we do see clients reevaluate how things were configured, how they're using the system. We would certainly recommend continued governance at the district to evaluate how they're using the system, what are the challenges, where are the areas for improvement. And that's part of also the evaluation process of all the vendors that responded to the RFP is what is that continued investment into their product? What does that support look like to make sure you continue to get the best and most out of that system? So success criteria, that's one of the things that, in project planning in our support of the district through the governance and planning, we would establish what is that success criteria. Is it cost savings in other areas? Is it what is the improved timing for certain business processes? We would establish that in KPIs, right? If it's specific metrics that we want to make sure we hit, we would establish that through project planning and then monitor that through the business decisions that the district makes, and then obviously post go live when you're actually using the system. Are you meeting those goals and objectives that you set out from the very beginning? So I like that you're already thinking of what makes us successful, and that's certainly something that we will plan for and document to make sure we have that sort of North Star and vision for the project.
Beth, and then Dan.
So you mentioned success criteria. Do we have a list of success criteria for this project? Do we know what success is going to look like? And then the second thing is upgrades, because if this project is going to last 10 years, we're going to have continual upgrades to the system. So how is that built into this proposal?
So success criteria, I would say we're going to be developing.
Yep, that's fair. We certainly had success criteria for, you know, these first three phases of the system selection. And then just your comment on upgrades, that would be part of those subscription costs. That's one of the benefits of going to software as a service, is that the vendor themselves are responsible for upgrading the solution. So it's taking some of that technical overhead and resources away from the district, and outsourcing those, if you will, to the software vendor. So you will always be on the latest and greatest version as new technology advances and developments from the software vendor. Certainly there will be sort of tested and vetted before they're in the production environment, but you will have those automatically and as part of that annual subscription cost.
I just have a second question around success criteria. So do we have an internal list of success criteria for this? Like, what would it look like for the district for success? And what are you thinking about as far as, you know, success for this whole project?
I don't know that we have a list other than what we do for the phases so far, like Austin mentioned and Bill mentioned here. But you're talking about, I believe, post-go live. What does success look like? Yeah,
exactly. What would we be satisfied with this project?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, to me, success looks like on time, on budget, right? But there are some other metrics. So my department has accounting, payroll, and purchasing, and IT. So, I mean, there are a lot of metrics that I'm going to be looking for pre-ERP and post-ERP. So efficiencies gained, how long does it take us to process payroll, for instance? Does it still take 2.5 days to process payroll? We should be down to less than half a day would be a metric, or accounts receivable and AP, like aging reports. Because this is automated now, we should be able to reduce time there. Support, how much support does it take IT to keep the system up and running, or to support users of the system? So there will definitely be different metrics that I'll be measuring, but those are not all defined yet.
Yeah, I'd like to better understand that, because at the end of the day, why we're doing this whole project is to really increase efficiency, basically save money over time, and I'd like to really keep track of those efficiencies and those benefits as we go forward, so that we can justify, you know, spending this kind of money and time on
Yeah. Another one would be having an ERP will significantly reduce our audit timeline, because we are not manually producing documents for the auditors. The auditors will have access to a restricted area of the data, and they can go in and do their testing. So there are a lot of different ways, but there's also, those are more objective ways you can measure. Some of the subjective success criteria to me would be less risk for the district. There's risk not having our financials in an ERP, doing things on spreadsheets, risk of having different numbers. Also better data for decision making, so leaders can make decisions based on, you know, current up-to-date data. That would be another success criteria, but that one would be harder to measure. Yeah.
Dan? Commissioner Paul, I've been involved in more than a couple of these fun projects in life, and they make them, I'd say 90% of the failures are the people not allowing change. If people, you know, I like, push this button to get that report. Well, you don't get that report anymore. No, it's a different report. I like that report. If you don't have that change, this will fail. If they don't like if they drag their feet and whatever else, I know they want a new system, but a lot of people, once they start doing this, ain't gonna like it. So that's your biggest thing for failure is people. Software can do the soft stuff, do what it says it does. But if the people don't accept what the software produces, or the software doesn't produce what you actually need, then it's going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
That's my on this box.
I agree.
Badri?
Thank you, President Hubble. This is Commissioner Lankella, and I agree with you on that one. That's why I'm proposing that having some kind of in-house expertise. There might be a report that they say, oh, I don't want this report, I want it differently. If we don't have in-house expertise on that one, it's going to be hard. You're going to be getting the reports that you wanted, but not the ones you wanted to show. And so I'm a lifetime IT guy. I know ERP is required. This is awesome what you're doing now, and but I think you need to have some kind of in-house expertise that will help you long term, especially you're thinking about 10-year terms. Completely relying on the report change. You got to go and you have to be in their queue line for the customer to get your report. It will also add the cost. It may not be listed now. You're thinking about modules now, but it might be added. Report is also a different module. They will come back and ask you for more. I have seen it again and again for the last 25 years of my career. Once you have them in, they will be asking for more for every change that you're asking.
Yeah, so two things on the change management question. So there will be a change management board or committee, whatever we call it, and the idea is to have change agents, at least one from each work group of the district, who would be meeting and communicating out the change, kind of be ambassadors for the change. So that's one way that we'll have in-house people working on the change management, with Barry Dunn providing the leadership on change management. As far as in-house resources, I don't mean to say because we have this consulting partner that we don't have in-house resources working on this too. I mean, a portion of my time will still be dedicated to this project. We have functional area leads, so in accounting, purchasing, HR, that will be dedicated probably 0.5 to 0.75 for implementation, as well as our IT staff. And we do know that going forward, we'll have to have IT support, especially around the report development area. So eventually we would hope to shift support for Oracle WAM, which is our current ERP. It's not an ERP, but it's our current system, to the new software. But I can't rule out that we would need another FTE in IT to support it. We don't know that yet. Yeah.
Speaking for myself, I think it's been very helpful to know that myself and many of the other the commissioners have recommendations for staff when it comes to maximizing the chances of success of this implementation. I do think the additional steps we're going to be touching this project will give us additional opportunities to, ensure that you have a plan for, staffing and who's going to be the SMEs within the district for the various modules and that kind of thing. But I would like to reiterate that I think this is a vital step, regardless of how we implement and which tool we finally select for the ERP. That being said, I will make the motion to approve the resolution for the transaction amount and the professional services agreement.
I'll be happy to second the motion.
I'm sorry. I do agree with Beth that the success is going to be based on that cost, and part on that cost benefit. How much time is it really going to save? And it better be saving time at if it's 10 years, it's $600,000 plus a year. I also have a concern that we're just going down a rabbit hole, and it's going to be money after money after money. I'm not going to realize the advantages fully of the system. So anyway, Anybody else? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Okay. That will take us to a study session on carbon credits. Bill?
This is Bill Walker, Deputy Executive Director. It occurred to me as we switch gears that this meeting, the items in this meeting have been declining in cost as we go. We started with an extremely expensive capital project. We got to a much, much less expensive ERP, and we've just shifted over into an item, excuse me, that'll generate a little bit of revenue. And when we get to chloride, we'll have an item that is a significant cost avoider for the district. On March 13th, we let you know about a potential deal with a company called Virridy. That deal is to do a public-private partnership to expand carbon markets related to watershed protection, and you wanted some more information. We realized afterwards, you may have seen us huddling in the corner, that we were asking you to get up to speed on this partnership in a few minutes when it had taken us about 2 years. So I'm going to take you through our learning journey here a little bit more slowly than last time. It's still far short of 2 years, but hopefully enough to be informative. The first question we had when Virridy approached us was, what is Virridy? They are a Boulder, Colorado company founded in 2012 by Evan Thomas. He's a University of Colorado Boulder professor. The mission of Virridy is to promote low-cost regulatory compliance and decarbonization of the water sector using data science, that's the professor part, carbon credit markets, public-private partnerships. They've worked with organizations like the World Bank, the Gates Foundation, NASA, Centers for Disease Control. One of their largest partners is Mortenson Construction, a Minneapolis construction firm, which Pfizer Forum, people tell me. And they're also building the bus terminal parking garage in Madison. In short, Virridy is an academic-launched company looking to do good in the world with data, innovative regulatory compliance, credit markets, partnerships, all focusing on watersheds. Important point that I'll come to. With that point in our journey, we recognized, okay, these people are worth listening to. Let's hear their proposal. So what was their proposal? At the heart, this proposal is for Virridy to help the district with carbon credits for sale in the private carbon credit market. What Virridy would do under the deal is they would handle all aspects of carbon credit management, calculating the credits, documenting what they are, getting them submitted to a registry, handling the audit and review process. Under the deal we arranged, they would buy the credits and then market them themselves, resell them themselves. District's role here would be staff time, about 20 to 40 hours per year, and that's in providing and verifying the data that goes into these credits, how much energy we're using. Benefit to the district is about $360,000 total. That is a total figure, not an annual figure, and it's for the term of the credits through about 2036. The benefit to Virridy is the opportunity to add a so-called first-of-its-kind public-private partnership project to their portfolio, which is supporting their growth towards their mission. Okay, those are the basics as we had them early on. They help us with credits. We get some money. Together, we're supporting Virridy's mission. That's when you get to the hard questions. Now, these all fit together like a puzzle, so I'm going to take them all together, and we can come back and discuss if we need. Right? The key hard question is, what exactly are these credits for? I.e., what are we doing that anyone is willing to pay for? So the initial answer here is we are avoiding creating carbon emissions by not constructing tertiary treatment for phosphorus removal. We're meeting our WPDS phosphorus limit through watershed adaptive management, the Yahara Winds Partnership. By reducing phosphorus runoff from the landscape through that partnership, we do not have to build tertiary treatment here at the plant. That treatment, if we did build it, would take a lot of energy, result in carbon emissions, not to mention be really expensive. So us not building tertiary treatment is valuable for people who want to limit carbon emissions. And as I'll discuss in the last question, point of carbon markets or any environmental market is to find a way to pay people for doing the right thing. And that's the idea here. Credits are payments for avoided emissions. All right, so far so good. And we have another hard question, which is, hang on a second. We already made the decision to do watershed adaptive management instead of building tertiary treatment. Why would anyone pay us now? We don't need to be paid to do the right thing. We already did it. This is where we realized our initial answer was not quite right. Now, it is true that the credits themselves are for avoided emissions. That's what they're based on. That's how they're calculated. But for Virridy and potential buyers of those credits, this partnership is more than that. So again, Virridy's mission as a company is to develop carbon markets, to make it easier for people in the watershed world, water industry, to do the right thing. If they're going to get there, they have to show that this kind of thing can work. They have to find situations where there are win-wins like this and sign people up for them. So that's what they want to partner with us for. And the credits make that explicit. They are, term again, first of its kind credits. Now we get to the next question. You said it now twice. What does first of its kind mean, and why does that matter? As I've indicated, most of the time credits for avoided emissions are set up before the recipient makes a decision. For most credits, it has to be shown that those avoided emissions were only avoided because of the payment, that it's the payment that made the difference. And that's one of the things that's verified in the credit process. As I've said, that's not true for our situation. So the credits under this partnership would make that fact explicit. That's what the term first of its kind means. It means that this project, the one that's getting the credits for it, is not a common practice. It's a new practice. That's true of watershed adaptive management here. It's true of Yahar winds. People buying those credits, they would buy them to encourage further investment in this kind of thing, watershed, non-built infrastructure projects to meet regulations. In other words, what they're trying to do here is demonstrate that projects like ours can work, both yield avoided emissions and be regulatorily compliant, and that you can quantify and document that stuff in a way that a market will accept. I personally relaxed a lot when I sort of realized that that was what was going on. We're not claiming under these credits that they made us choose to do adaptive management. What we're doing is joining Virridy in demonstrating that this kind of project can work. And Marty can say more about this if we need to, but that's a big deal. Like, these credit markets are historically based in the renewable energy industry and forestry, not in water. And that's what Virridy's trying to do. They're trying to say you can actually use this in the water sector. All right, so once we had gotten clear that the market and the credit part made sense to us, now you get to what for me is an even harder question. How do you contract for this in a way that's safe for us? And this is where we turn to the legal team. So Stafford's goal here was to limit liability, limit risk for the district. Sure, the market makes sense, but the devil's always in the details. And we wanted to be sure that that we were not at risk. Legal problems arose with those credits. And that's what Stafford did. So among other things in that contract, we chose the guaranteed price model. There are many much more complicated sort of profit-sharing ways to structure these credits, but we chose the low-risk one with a certain price. Limit risk, limit uncertainty in this deal. So if there are changes in the voluntary market or national regulatory changes that somehow affect this market, even though it's not a regulated market, we're insulated from those. So to this point in our journey, we learned what Virridy was, what the basics of the deal is. We understood this avoided emission credits. We understood that this first of its kind type credits show that this can work. And we had a contract that protected us. Now there is a question that we did not ask along this journey. which is, what are carbon markets in the first place? The reason we did not ask this is that the we here, so Marty Griffin, Ben Narad, Vanessa Wishart, Paul Kent, and myself, we all have professional experience with these markets. So we're environmental policy nerds of one kind or another, and we spent many years sort of learning about these things. But not everybody is blessed to be such a nerd, so I'm going to do, as my last question, a little Market 101 here. And I'm taking this framing from Paul Krent, and so I wanted to acknowledge that. So the first point about environmental markets is there are people in the world who could do the right thing, that is to say, reduce emission or reduce water pollution or whatever it is, very cheaply and efficiently. They don't have the money to do that. And there's a companion point, which is there are people in the world who could reduce emissions or pollution or whatever, but it would be very expensive and inefficient for them to do that. Watershed adaptive management is an example of this idea. Everybody around here wants lower phosphorus in our water, and that social desire is expressed through regulation, including our permit limit. We, the district, we could certainly do that. We could reduce phosphorus in our effluent, but it would be very expensive and very energy intensive and carbon intensive for us to do it. Landowners can also reduce phosphorus in the watershed, but they can do it much more cheaply than we can, with less energy and less carbon emissions. The key is they don't have the money to do that. So Yahara Winds, Watershed Adaptive Management, solves that problem. It gets all these people together. We can provide money to landowners along with our municipal partners, but it would be much less than we would spend on tertiary treatment, and everybody wins from that. We all collectively get the same or better phosphorus reduction than we would have done with tertiary treatment, and it costs less for the whole region. So kind of that's the point of environmental markets, including carbon markets. And then the last point on this is that many, probably most markets have some kind of regulatory driver. That's going on with our watershed adaptive management. We are driven by our permit limit, and regulatory driver is extremely important, but I think it would be too cynical to think that they're the only driver. And the fact that there are voluntary carbon markets is proof of that. There are organizations in the world that want to help reduce carbon emissions, even though there's no driver on them. Altruism could be fear of climate change, desire for corporate image, whatever the motivation is. The point is it yields real money, and the kind of public-private partnership we've been offered is in that voluntary market. So I've tried to hit all of the questions you raised through this arc. The wrap-up here is to restate the bottom line. We plan to sign an agreement with Virridy to manage and sell these avoided emission credits. The agreement is designed by legal to protect us from risk. Total yield for us is about $360,000. Pretty minor impact on district staff. Benefits Virridy by helping them demonstrate the work, both for cost-effective compliance and carbon reduction. And that's it. 2 years of learning stuffed into, when I tried it, was about 15 minutes. I don't know what it actually was here today. And Marty can help me, or we can take questions, or Vanessa, if you have them. Beth?
Oh, thank you. That was a great review and helpful. But my simplistic idea of the way carbon credits work is that because we save carbon and emissions, we have these credits, and then other companies, for whatever reason, or districts or whatever entity, would be able to buy those credits because they are emitting carbon above their permitted levels. So they say, okay, I'll take your X number of credits, and then I can exceed the carbon limits that I'm held to because I bought these credits from you. So there's kind of this cap, overall government cap on the amount of carbon that can be released or emitted, and then, so that evens out across. Is that simplistic view, is that correct? I'm just wondering, the overall picture of carbon credits and how they basically work. So.
Excuse me, I can take this one. So, I apologize, Vanessa Wishart, Legal Counsel. So, as Bill was explaining, the carbon market world we're operating in under this agreement is a voluntary carbon market. So there are no regulatory requirements on the people who buy these credits to meet any certain carbon limit. So it is really companies that choose to try to offset the amount of carbon that they're emitting into the environment on a voluntary basis. And like Bill said, this comes up, Virridy partners a lot with Mortenson Construction. Construction is an industry where it's very challenging to efficiently reduce carbon. And so that's one industry where certain actors may want to try to pay for an offset. But again, it's not based on a regulatory requirement. It's based on their voluntary choice to do so.
So I'm just wondering why a company would want to buy credits then if it's not required of them. What's the benefit for them?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a PR move. It could be that they have an environmental bent to the company, that they just, that is a value of the company. That they're invested in their community too and want to see, benefits to environment in the community. Any number of reasons.
Okay, so I got a question. We're getting, say, over 10 years, $30-some thousand a year, right? A little more. So does Virridy already have somebody on hand to buy our carbon credits? Because otherwise they're taking the risk of giving us $30-some thousand a year over 10 years on the idea that somebody will, but I'm thinking they must already have somebody on hand, right?
I don't know for sure, but that is the point of structuring. Marty has an answer to this question, so I'm going to stop answering it while he comes up to the table.
Hi, Marty Griffin, Director of Ecosystem Services. So in talking with Virridy, they are accepting that risk because of their mission, what they want to do. So that's why we structure the contract that way. They do have some folks lined up, but they're always looking for more, and that's sort of their job to do that. That's why they're taking that risk on. So it's kind of yes and no.
Okay, so they have people in the pipeline, but they don't have anything definite. And so if the market were to all of a sudden tank, they're still on the hook for our payment, annual payment. Or if they renege on the contract, then everything goes away or whatever.
Yeah, Vanessa Wishart. So like Bill and Marty said, there were a number of ways we could structure the contract. One would be to give the district some sort of interest in what the credits eventually sell for. So taking a percentage, for example, if the market does really well, the district would make more money. If it does really poorly, the district would not. And we opted to just take the kind of flat rate. So there's no investment from the district in the success of the carbon market. It's just we're getting a flat amount of money.
So they make their money hoping to sell the carbon credit for our $30-some thousand at 45 or something.
Correct, right.
Okay, Greg and Badri?
So, quick question for three of you. So, from my pragmatic mind here, right, the worst thing that can happen to the district is this company goes bankrupt and we don't receive some money. And it doesn't matter because Marty is already running Yahara Winds because it makes sense for us to run Yahara Winds regardless of this. So there's really no downside to us, right? There's no way we lose, effectively. We can win less but not lose.
Yes, correct. And again, I want to emphasize that the benefit, like Bill focused on here, the benefit, I think from Virridy's perspective here, is that this is sort of a pilot project, that they're looking to set up a market for this kind of work that the district's doing. And so that's their benefit. For us, it's something we're already doing. There is really no downside.
Thank you. Commissioner Lankella here. So understand, so we already have, no additional expense comes with it, right? Like sensors or testers and anything, we already have those. Virridy's website shows about their own sensors and tests and all of that, so just wanted to make sure. Understand that.
So you're correct, no additional cost. So as part of the process, we provided Virridy with the type of data that we collect to make sure that it would be verifiable and it's what they need. And they verified that what we're already doing, the type of level of data we have, is sufficient to meet the verification requirements. So no additional work or cost on our end is needed.
Very good. Okay. Anyone else? Nope. Don't need anything from us. Nope. They're going to sign this, just more informational. Okay.
Quick question, Tom. One quick one for me. What is, I think you said 20 to 40 hours of staff time a year, Bill? Ballpark, what does that cost? I want to net 36,000 down to the actual number. Ballpark.
Are you going to try to answer that one, Marty, or? I don't have an answer prepared to that one question. Sorry.
$2,000, maybe?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I think one other point is, as Marty mentioned, we're providing data that we already collect. So it's, I mean, it is time, but it's it's part of the work that we do.
Easily accessed and easily generated, but there's, you said there's a little time in there, so I think that's fair to fit into the net calculus. I'm sold. Not that it matters. We're going, but
we have to provide that data to somebody else anyway, so they're just an add-on. Oh, do we provide that data to somebody else anyway, so it's just an add-on to the data we provide? Or?
Yeah, Marty Griffin, Director of Ecosystem Services. That's correct. I mean, all the data, we're collecting it for our adaptive management program, so there's no additional information.
Okay. That will take us to project update on chloride prevention. Kathy, Catherine, and Emily.
Okay. All right. Well, good morning, and thank you very much for having us here today. My name is Kathy Lake. I'm the Pollution Prevention Manager for the district. I'm here today with Catherine Harris, one of our pollution prevention specialists, and we're here to talk about our chloride pollutant minimization program. Oops. There. I love this picture of the plant because it shows the vast freshwater resources in our area. We have the rivers, lakes, streams, wetlands, as well as abundant groundwater for drinking. Here at the district, we are responsible for protecting, cleaning, and recycling nearly 40 million gallons of fresh water every day. There's a challenge and a threat to that fresh water in that we receive almost 200,000 pounds of salt every single day. It's a lot of salt. And even diluted in that 40 million gallons, it's more than the freshwater ecosystem can handle. Therefore, we have a requirement in our permit to meet a water quality standard for chloride, which we can't currently meet because we do not remove chloride at the plant. A previous commission when faced with this challenge, decided to approve going for a variance for chloride reduction. And that requires us, once we received that variance, we were required to put in place a pollutant minimization plan. Many times when we're faced with a new regulation, we're able to construct facilities that will help us comply with that requirement. We hired a consultant nearly 10 years ago to look at what it would take to comply with the requirement for chloride. And it would pretty much require either changing the whole drinking water system in the region to soften the drinking water before it gets to homes, or it would require putting the equivalent of a desalination plant at the end of our wastewater plant. And we've been talking a lot today about numbers. The costs to put this plant in 2015 dollars were between $400 million and $2.3 billion. So we talked the liquid process project that we were talking about today is a little under $100 million. In order to treat for chloride, we would be looking at a minimum of 4 times that. This, and the reason for the range is because no matter if you have that chloride in you have that salt in your water, you take it out, you have to still handle it. So you have that concentrated brine you have to do something with. And how you take care of that is where you end up somewhere between $400 million and $2 billion. In addition, when we plan, design, and construct facilities, we also have to remember that we need to operate and maintain those for years into the future, and we also have to plan for the replacement. So in addition to putting all that upfront infrastructure in, we also have to work to replace it in the future. We worked very hard when we originally did this project to look at what it would entail. The minimum in 2015 dollars, the minimum rate increase to put chloride treatment would have been 55% on top of our normal rate increases. And we're lucky in some ways here at the plant that we could actually put a desalination plant at the end of our wastewater plant to remove that chloride from going into the fresh water. Because for the rest of our rivers, lakes, and streams in the area, it's not possible. If we were to take out dissolved solids like chloride, we would actually kill those streams. We would remove the entire low end of the food chain and make them not viable. One of the first steps in our pollutant minimization program is to identify sources. And when we did that, we found that the majority of the salt that we get here is from water softeners. Every bag of salt you put in your water softener ends up in a freshwater stream. We also found that there were some industrial components to our sources, but there's also sources of road de-icing. Even though we're a wastewater-only waste treatment plant, we do receive inflow and infiltration during the melt periods, and that carries whatever is on the road into our sewer system. And in the periods of time when we have de-icing chemicals on the road, we see that showing up in our wastewater. We also see those road de-icing chemicals infiltrating into our groundwater. And we're seeing the groundwater concentrations of chloride continuing to increase. So even before you soften the water at your home, the chloride is increasing. Then you soften it, which adds more chloride, and then that all comes to the plant where we can't remove it. Yep. No. Water softening is 57%. The road de-icing is about 7%. The drinking water at the time we did this was about 8%. We had an industrial component, and we've been working with a lot of the large industrials. We know that component is shrinking, and we are currently working to redo this pie chart to make sure that we are as current as we can be. Yep. So the question was, are we seeing changes in the road de-icing? We are seeing changes in all of the components of this pie chart. We're seeing, we've been working really hard on right-sizing how road salt is used in the region, and we've been working really hard on optimizing water softening within our region. We've been working really hard with our large customers and others to optimize how much salt they're using. So we are seeing changes in all of the pieces of that pie, and we are continuing to work really diligently.
Total amounts, the pie is getting smaller, so
yeah.
The percentages still may be.
Well, yes and no. So we'll get to that. We are seeing mass decreases, but no, and these are great questions. You have another?
Yeah, so the cities now, they're moving away from salting the roads to the
anti-icing,
and also the sand. Is that actually helping to reduce these?
Yes, this is a lot of the work that we've been influencing to change here over the past 10 years. So it's really exciting that you're noticing that too. As we look at these sources of chloride to our plant, this really shows the connections. We're looking at drinking water, we're looking at stormwater, we're looking at wastewater, we're looking at rivers and lakes and streams, and this is all fresh water. This is all one water. And that concept really helped us when we needed to try to justify our variance. Most variances in EPA Region 5 and in the state are award or are given based on economic harm. So the widespread adverse social and economic impacts, you can't meet the criteria because it's going to cost too much. There's a lot of adverse impacts. Even when we looked at the high end of those costs, the $2.3 billion, we could not meet the criteria for widespread economic harm. We have a very large area. We have over 400,000 people. We have a very affluent area, and they look at 2% of a median household income to determine that economic impact. And even at $2.3 billion of additional assets, which would have increased our rates over 500%, we could not qualify for that type of variance. We had to be very creative and look at other ways to potentially acquire a variance needed to continue moving forward with chloride reduction. And we were able to use that concept of all the different water improvements that were happening because of our chloride source reduction program to achieve a different type of variance. And that was that there was the pollution prevention was actually helping the overall region. And our pollution minimization program is working. The black line is in 2010 when chloride first showed up in our permit. Our pollutant minimization program started a couple years later. And we've seen that that mass of chloride that we're getting is decreasing. And this is really important because we have an area that is significantly experiencing significant growth. We're seeing thousands of new housing units, and many of those housing units, nearly all, are adding softening of some sort. We also know that our groundwater and our surface waters are continuing to increase in chloride concentration. So the work that we're doing is showing up, but we still have work to do. This is a very scattered graph on the right, but the red line that goes across is the water quality standard we need to meet. We currently have interim standards, which are the dashed lines, winter standards and summer standards, and we actually are regulated on a weekly average basis. But we have many days and actually weeks that are above that water quality standard. So we need to continue working to get pretty much all of our dots below that red line. So pollution prevention is one way to achieve permit compliance. This is a permit compliance strategy, just like building new infrastructure. It can be cost effective, can save us money, it can be very effective, but it is innovative and it is new. It requires a variety of expertise. We're bringing together all different voices and different ideas and different ways of looking at problems in order to solve some of these challenges. It's innovative. It's trying things that have never been done before. It's requiring you as a commission to invest in non-traditional things. Instead of investing in infrastructure here at the plant, you're investing in infrastructure out in the community. You're investing in partnerships. You're investing in things that, much like the Yahara Winds project, we're investing our dollars where we can really make changes happen that may not be a one-to-one that you can see today. It requires collaboration. It requires education. It also requires changing norms and behaviors. I think all of us have been told we need to do something, and sometimes we do it, and sometimes it takes us years to remember to actually do it. But we need those game day decisions. We need people to be making the right choices in the moment that really help reduce the chloride that we see here at the plant. The picture on the left shows our pollution prevention team and the National Association of Clean Water Associations Operations and Environmental Performance Award that we received this year. National recognition for the work that we're doing in pollution prevention and chloride reduction. We've also recently had the training program that we developed for optimizing water softeners. The state of Minnesota just adopted that and is running with our program. So throughout the state, throughout the country, throughout the region, our work is being recognized. But pollution Pollution prevention takes everyone. I put a picture of our staff in the middle. Most of our work groups and many of our staff are involved in making this program work. We're also working with advocacy organizations, others in the wastewater industry, our state and local agencies, individuals and residents, as well as community artists, educators, tradespeople, the schools, the colleges, and many local businesses. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Catherine to go into some of the success stories that we have.
So I want to start with probably what is one of the most visible things that we do, and that is being in the community, starting conversations, special events, tours, certainly, as you can see pictured here, working with our communications team to build up our web and social media presence, meeting people where they're at. Starting the conversation is a small part of our overall work, but it's very important. And these are conversations that help us uncover barriers and opportunities for how we can move this work forward. Out in the community, we've been working with business very extensively to find ways to reduce salt use. Water quality professionals have developed standard best management practices with us. They've established an efficiency standard. We've accelerated change in their businesses through mini grants. We've contacted all commercial buildings in the city of Madison a number of times. 19 of our 50 top largest water users in the Madison water utility have already made softener improvements as a result of conversations we've had and resources we've been able to provide. All of our industrial permittees in the pretreatment program have had pollution prevention conversations as part of their annual discussions and inspections for years now. We've helped large corporate campuses, Epic, American Family, UW, Exact Sciences, inventory their softeners and find opportunities for salt reduction. Even snow and landscape companies have been majorly shifting their businesses' practices as a result of our outreach and working together. Certainly, these complex problems do need all different kinds of expertise and partnerships, as Kathy had mentioned, and our customer communities have been a great partner in this work. They have direct relationships with their residents, public works departments, water utilities, and a beat on what is happening as far as development in their community. They're unique in their ability to communicate as trusted messengers to set local rules and regulations and standards. The communities report to the district annually per our sewer use ordinance on measures taken to help reduce sources of chloride in their communities. They report chloride levels in their drinking water wells. And we district staff meet with program staff in the customer communities to hear and understand what their needs are and opportunities are for us to support their work. They've been reliable partners in advancing chloride source reduction, and a number of communities have been partners of ours in pilot programs, which I'll talk about in a minute. Partnerships extend beyond, including our customer communities. We've recently partnered with the City of Madison, their BESP program, which is Building Energy Savings Program, to add softeners to an already existing energy and water efficiency program. So we've been able to gain access to more buildings through that partnership, leveraging their work to move the chloride source reduction program further faster and piggybacking on audits that are already taking place. In addition to local government, nonprofits have helped this work too and expanded our reach. Similar to the Building Energy Savings Program partnership with Madison, we've been able to partner with nonprofits on adding water softeners into other existing audit programs, like, for example, with Project Home and the Sustained Gain Efficiency Navigator program. There's probably no better example of a partnership, successful partnership, than the Wisconsin Saltwise partnership. The district founded SaltWise by bringing together a broad coalition. This is a true One Water effort. As you can see there on the screen, lots of different entities that are bringing different perspectives and are impacted by salt in many different ways. So drinking water, public health, regional planning, surface water, stormwater. It's not just wastewater. And SaltWise is a great way to cover all of those entities and look at this problem from a One Water perspective. Through the district's leadership in bringing this partnership together, it has now grown statewide and been successful in growing outreach, advocacy, and training. Notably, this organization recently worked at a to change state policy to reduce some of the biggest barriers to private companies as far as over-applying salt. We've also partnered with local plumbing shops, building inspectors, utilities, and notably Plumbers Union Local 75 to train hundreds on best practices for soft water reduction and water softener efficiency. Salt reduction work really requires getting to that root cause to change the status quo, uncovering barriers. And for a long time, salt has been very cheap and an easy solution to some of our challenges. So optimizing salt wasn't something that professionals were required to do. Now that practice is evolving through training efforts. For over 10 years now, the district has been involved with road salt training. We've seen a huge change in this industry, as was mentioned earlier. And anti-icing, this is a great example. I'm glad you already brought it up, is an example. Anti-icing means using liquids for winter ice removal. So anti-icing was about 10 years ago, it was kind of just a theory, and now it's moved into mainstream practice. There's entire counties in Wisconsin which are no longer using any granular products. They're doing liquids only, and they've seen up to 70% salt reductions. And the district is really leading the way on this. This is actually a picture of our own anti-icing setup that was one of the first in this area. So our crews have been pioneers in figuring out how this stuff works and how to make it effective and something that folks can accept. Through our training program, incentives, support, and making connections, we are growing the pool of local experts and leaders. We've leveraged our ability to capture and tell stories and promote these early adopters. There's so many cool case studies. This one on the left, the picture you see here, is one of them. And I'm not going to get too deep into it right now, but I encourage you to go on our blog and the Wisconsin SaltWise YouTube channel and check out some of these case studies. They're really cool. This one is my favorite. Strike that from the official record. Just kidding. Underlying our programs, there's an incredible amount of research. We're not just going based off of what sounds good or what someone told us to do. We do a lot of source identification, research monitoring, so shout out to our lab and collection system services, facilities maintenance who've helped with these projects over the years. We've collected a lot of data about attitudes, barriers, motivations, values that underlie the way decisions are being made right now and what would help move those decisions forward in a salt reduction direction. Through our pilot programs, we've been systematically uncovering not only the best ask for salt reduction for our bottom line, but one that is feasible and palatable to area residents. This work has been especially important for home softeners, for which there's really no easy answer. Each pilot has helped us get one step closer to the right ask, and our current pilot initiatives are really focused on reducing soft water use. We're looking at installing blending valves and evaluating which water sources really need to be softened. This is a pivot from early programs that focused a lot on efficiency. It's an exciting direction because it shifts away from something that could be a temporary solution to something that can be really long-term and a game changer. The pilots helped us get here. The blending valve pilot that's kicking off right now with a customer community partner, it's just getting started, and we're looking forward to collecting more data about this project, gaining more insight, and learning more about the feasibility of scaling this. And I want to emphasize that what we're doing is not about just changing equipment. It's about changing norms, looking at long-term sustainable solutions that really upend the status quo, having conversations that initiate these changes. And this is something we do in all of our work, softeners, road salt, and beyond. I already mentioned a couple norms that have changed in winter maintenance, but I want to bring up a couple more that are a direct result from our efforts. So over the past year, there has been a major change in global supply as a result of conversations that we've had. We worked with a large softener component manufacturer to change their default settings on all outgoing softeners to low salt settings. This is worldwide, not just here. We're gathering data from our owner communities about their drinking water wells that has created a lookup tool that makes it easy for plumbers to set up softeners the right way. So no more inaccurate tests and rules of thumb, guesswork. We're giving them tools to actually put in the right number. A local builder is now installing high efficiency softeners with blending valves as a standard feature on all new homes. That's what's pictured here, training the service plumbers who are going to do those installs. We've worked with many local companies to restructure their winter maintenance contracts so that now they're making money based on the level of service they're providing instead of a format where more salt spread equals more money made. This list could go on. I could take up a lot more of your time giving these examples, but it's really exciting work. And by changing how individuals approach maintenance of their own home appliances, how businesses operate, and how salt is viewed overall, we're making long-term changes, not putting Band-Aids and temporary solutions in place. Our programs and relationships are all geared towards this long-term change. And the district's chloride reduction initiative is paving the way for water quality improvements in our community and beyond. The strategies we're using, as Kathy alluded to, are being adopted locally, statewide, and nationally. The last thing I want to impress upon you all is that the lessons here learned through the chloride source reduction initiative are durable and transferable. They are going to pay dividends for the district going forward on many future programs. As we look towards more and more complex pollutants that are going to be challenging and require source reduction, like PFAS, for example, we're going to inevitably be drawing on the relationships, the tools, the processes, and partnerships that we've developed as part of our chloride source reduction initiative. So I'm going to pass it back to Kathy here to allude to what are the next steps and how you all might be involved going forward.
Thank you, Catherine. So we appreciate the opportunity to kind of give the overview of the chloride source reduction program. We're currently, as a district, in the process of renewing our permit. We have an application into the Department of Natural Resources, and we have a variance application for chloride. Again, we're still not reliably meeting our water quality standard, and we are asking for another 5-year variance to continue putting these practices in place to get us reliably to that point. We're also in the process of updating our sewer use ordinance. And as we work to refine what are those asks, we are looking towards more policy solutions that can help us sustain those going forward. And the commission will be engaged in those discussions. And the final thing I want to say is that pollution prevention requires all of us doing everything we can. We all have that ability to change our own behavior and our own way of working, and that we're all connected to many different people and many different organizations. So if you can amplify this information through your networks, it would really be helpful to our ongoing program. With that, I would like to open it up to any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Badri?
This is Commissioner Lankella again. This is excellent presentation. Really love it. Educational. As everybody knows, Dane County is the fastest growing in Wisconsin, so we are actually building more houses. So you're going to see a lot more salt. So that's why President Howell was asking about, is it decreasing? It'll be interesting to see that one, because as the more population grows, I think it's going to keep growing up, even though we are trying to do a lot more things like using brine instead of salt on the roads. And so seeing that number will be really helpful. And the residentials, when we are buying houses, this is my case, especially personally, they say put as much salt you can so that your all your utensils stays longer life, right? From softener to water heaters to refrigerator to everything. They say it will last longer if you put more salt. So education, I think, is a very good one that and then neighborhood association. I'm the board member of neighborhood association. We pay those salt removers, the ice removers, based on how many times they come, right? So we gotta rethink on how we charge them or pay them, not based on how many times they come and do the salting. So that's another educational, very important one. And the city level, anything that can help as a new alder I can work with, and we have the sustainability committee, and I'm the board member there too. If you can come and present there, that we will be really happy to be there. And also anything that we can help from the city of Madison as an ordinance, it can definitely help there too. Good one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those are all amazingly good points. We would love to come back to the Committee on the Environment. We've been there before, and we would love to come back. We have a softener self-screen on our website that you can take, and you can figure out what's going on with your own softener and also look at the potential for a blending valve. And yes, if you have any additional questions, I'd love to talk more.
Yeah, so just definitely wanted to know the alternatives of the things that I mentioned, right? Especially neighborhood association. I'm the treasurer. I look at the budget, so I wanted to see that go down. So it's number of times versus. So any ideas there? We can definitely learn that one. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And we've been trying to acquire other contracts so that we have some other contracts that have been written for snow and ice removal. So you can kind of look and see those and see which one could potentially help you as well.
Commissioner Buckland, just a comment. Kudos to you. It is really great to see that we are leaders in this area, that the district is, and I'm really proud of the work that you've done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your passion in doing this. I'm, like I said, I'm a numbers guy. There's graphs. Why is February such a bad month?
Yeah, so what we see is when we see the most road salt infiltrating into the sewer system is during the beginning of a melt event. So February, we've had ice and snow over the winter. There's been salt put down, but it starts to mobilize into the sewers on the beginning of a melt event. And we see, chloride is an interesting, like other things that are concentration-based. When you have a lot of flow, it's diluted. So we're looking at concentration. So when the beginning of the melt event, when there isn't a ton of water, but it's carrying that salt with it, that's when we see those huge spikes.
Okay, so that was number one. Number two, when you're redoing the policy or whatever, you got to be careful that, like me as a homeowner, I can actually adhere to your policy because I use a water softener. I don't know if it's ugly, but if I don't have it, I can't wash my hair. No shampoo comes. I mean, there's no bubbles. So basically, that's the reason you use salt. I mean, water softener so you can wash clothes, do everything like that. But yeah, thank you for. This is way more information than I ever want to know about salt. But It's definitely important to the area. Thank you.
And thank you very much. So we've been, as part of our program, really digging into some of the why. And one of the things that we found is that areas, so the EPA has recommended for like energy efficiency about 6 grains of hardness in water. So not softening down to 0, but having some hardness. If you're in Chicago or Milwaukee and you're drinking lake water, you're in that 6 to 7 grains of hardness, and the water system still works. So that's one of the good things that we've found through pilots and being able to test blending valves. Blending valve is a small component that can add on to the back of an existing softener, and it can allow you to pass some hard water through so that you have a blend of the soft water and a little bit of hardness. And if you had 20 grains of hardness that was coming to you and you were able to blend a quarter of that, so 5 grains, still below that 6, 7 grains, you would be reducing your salt by 25%. So that's a huge thing when we look at how much salt we get here.
Kathy, how close are we getting to not needing a variance anymore?
We are getting closer and closer. We're continuing to get closer to that 395, but I think, as you mentioned, we still see spikes in the winter that are significantly over that 395 number. We need to pull our baseline down so that we can accommodate some of those as well. But we have worked significantly with how road salt is being used, and we're seeing a lot of communities 60, 70% reduction in how much they're putting down. Some of the policy things that we're working with private applicators, if we can help the private applicators not have that same liability. So there was a liability reduction bill that was in the legislature last year that was supported by SaltWise, and it actually passed through both parts of our state legislature, but it was vetoed by the governor. But that would allow, if a road salt company was putting their people through training and they were documenting what they were putting on and why, that they would be liable from negligence on slip and fall type accidents. So it was a very proactive way to get a voluntary training program into effect.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I had a second piece, but it's okay. I really like all this stuff. It's great, and I think you know that. We've talked about it lots, but this pollution prevention work is so important, and yields benefits massively in excess of the cost of it, which is terrific. I'm trying to locate all of this great information in the big picture, and so I wanted to ask you about the trend out there, right? Not in our sort of human side, hydrologic cycle, but out there in the hydrologic cycle of the streams, the rivers, and the lakes in our area. What's the trend line? Is chloride concentration going up? Is it flat? Is it down? I've sort of, in my water resources industry career, this one's a scary one, right? We're seeing our drinking water wells up, up, up. We're seeing concentrations in streams and rivers up, 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 moving towards acute thresholds where aquatic life gets dead, right? I mean, we're just over-salting our world, and our water resources show it. Talk me off that ledge. Is it as bad as I just said, or is it looking better around here with all these amazing proactive efforts, ours and lots of community partners included?
So very good points. We have, if you look over the last 20 years, we've seen increases in our drinking water. We've seen increases in all the Madison lakes, and even Lake Mendota with a huge ability to dilute, significant increases in the chloride concentration. Chloride persists. Once it's in water, it persists in water. We have seen significant reductions in how much chloride is going into that water, but it's going to take years for it to show up. But we need to start now, or we're not going to see that in the future.
I think Commissioner Lytle, I think Commissioner Meyer kind of got at the question I was hoping to understand. Considering the whole ongoing discussion of point source versus non-point source, and the approach we're taking with nutrient loading, how we can impact the watershed by partnering. How much of our permit variance based on watershed approaches versus purely what's coming into the plant approaches? So do we get credit for participating with Saltwise and looking at the much bigger problem as opposed to, not to say that the salt coming from the wastewater system is also a problem?
It's an interesting question. So as part of our variance, we have to have a pollutant minimization plan. And that pollutant minimization plan looks at how we identify sources, how we make reductions, and how we maintain those reductions. So there are pieces of the how we're making reductions that are on the softener side, on the industrial side, on the road salt side. And then how we maintain those has portions of all of that. I remember the second part of your question.
Just this, if we were to redesign the regulatory landscape from scratch for chloride the same way, I think some good gains have been made with nutrients, phosphorus, et cetera. Like how would we help shift the focus from, our small problem to the much larger problem that Commissioner Meyer was talking about?
So it is interesting. So one of the differences between adaptive management and phosphorus and the chloride program is that the stormwater permits currently, so stormwater MS4s have permits as well, discharge permits. They don't currently have chloride limits in their permits. The phosphorus permit, in their MS4 permits, they do have percent reduction requirements for phosphorus. So having a policy type where stormwater entities would have some requirements for chloride reduction could actually be that game changer you're talking about, as well as drinking water. Yeah.
This is kind of related to Ezra's question and comment, but taking me off the cliff of concern about chloride, I know that chloride's a mobile ion in the environment, and it goes everywhere water goes. Is there any way that it is naturally taken out of water supplies in the environment, or will we always have it in our natural waters?
That's an interesting question. I think the way my head is going right now is that our water is generally moving. So it's going from point to point. So we are going to, if we stop loading it, we're going to see over time less there.
I guess dilution is a solution, maybe. I don't know.
And I'm not sure this totally answers your question because you specifically said in water, but there are some really cool research projects. We've been part of the International Salt Symposium, and we've actually gotten an award from them, the district, for our chloride reduction, source reduction initiative. There's some really interesting research going on with remediation of contaminated soils, taking the salt out through plant biomass that can then be harvested and used as fuel sources. So there's some really interesting research going on. It's very still in bench tabletop university kind of stuff, but we're definitely staying plugged into those cutting edge kind of next generation solutions. Yeah.
Anything else? Sorry, anything else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you very much. Executive Director update, Eric?
Yep, thank you. Eric Dundee, Executive Director. I'm going to give one update, and then Amanda Wegner will follow up with three more. So just wanted to give you guys a quick update on Tuesday. I'm sorry, Thursday today. Commissioner Brooklyn and I and a few others attended the Clean Lakes Alliance event, and we as a district signed on for their next phase in the Renew the Blue document. And as part of that, us and I believe it's 19 other agencies, City of Madison, Dane County, others are doing that. That's part of our what we would call our core work here is with lakes and then with Yahara winds also. So just wanted to give that quick update and then turn it over to Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda Wegner, Communications and Public Affairs Director. Just three kind of updates slash recaps for you. So also on Tuesday, we held our very first CIP technical information webinar. We did have 4 commissioners on that, as well as 17 owner community representatives and 25 or 26 representatives from engineering, design, construction firms. We did record that. I will be sending the link to that recording out to all of you in case you missed it. It went very well, and we look forward to doing that again next year. Also, next on the docket, next Thursday, you would have gotten a notification about this also on Tuesday. Next Thursday, the governor has proclaimed it Wastewater Professionals Appreciation Day. We are having a coffee reception here, and you are invited in conjunction with the wastewater monitoring program. So we have folks from the State Department of Health Services and State Lab of Hygiene. It's a pretty informal event, similar to the meet and greet we had back in February. So not a sit-down, dress-up sort of thing. It's a come listen to some remarks, and we will be receiving a actual physical proclamation this year. So that's kind of exciting. I hope you can join us. And then finally, just a reminder, a little less than a month out, on Wednesday, June 11th, 7:30 a.m., we have our community and commission listening session. So that is delivering on one of Eric's first-year goals. We have secured representatives from each of the 3 appointing authorities, the City of Madison, Dane County Cities and Villages Executive Council, and the Towns Association Executive Council. So just a reminder for that, it is in person only in this room, and so we look forward to that event and delivering on that for Eric. It is 7:30. I'm doubting that, but I'm pretty sure it's 7:30. Yes, Cassie is nodding her head at me.
That's at 7:30 a.m. rather than the standard date. Okay, thank you, Amanda. Commissioner Meyer, you, let's see, well, they have you for the anything on the performance?
We're meeting right after this. So
okay.
Nothing new. We haven't had a meeting since the last time we met as a commission, and I gave a brief update. So next time, we'll hopefully have something to report.
Yep. Greg, staying on finance?
Yeah, our committee has met twice, and we meet again this coming Monday. The first 2 meetings have been very informative. Daniel, myself, and Patrick are on the subcommittee, and Ben, Bill, and Eric largely have been what I would call backfilling information gaps for all of us, and I am extremely grateful for guys with more financial background than I have to be part of this. So I would say at this point we are still kind of finding out how the district currently does things and where we want to go. So we will be coming back, I think, with some recommendations to the larger commission based on these discussions for, I think, both short and long-term actions. So that will probably happen, I'm guessing, June, July-ish. Sure. Okay.
Okay, so we'll move on to regulatory and legal. Vanessa, federal government's changing PFAS?
Yes. Vanessa Wishart, Legal Counsel. So a couple of things I want to highlight. The federal government is moving forward on changing the MCLs for PFAS. There were 2 that I believe are going to remain, a couple that limits that will be revised, and some that they're not moving forward with. And I will provide specific information in the next legal update on what those MCLs specifically will look like. That just happened yesterday. So it's an ever-changing environment at the federal government. There also, the new EPA Administrator, Lee Zeldin, also did put out a statement on what EPA is going to do with PFAS going forward. There was some questions about whether they would kind of abandon the efforts that had been started under the Biden administration. It sounds like they will keep taking at least some of the steps relating to PFAS regulation, but I think this recent change on MCLs indicates that a lot of this is probably going to be less stringent than we maybe would have seen under the initial actions under the Biden administration. One thing I'll note is I think I made this comment at the last meeting, but that the district did submit comments on the biosolids risk assessment. The comment period, though, has been extended through August. And so there will be more comments coming in, and we won't know any more about what's going to happen with that risk assessment until after that comment period closes. A couple updates at the state level. This is one that is kind of just an initial or an early stages update. There have been some bills proposed but not yet introduced with bill numbers at the state legislature that would significantly impact the rulemaking process, which the district, a lot of the district's regulatory requirements come through DNR rules, and this rule package is a pretty significant change to how rulemaking would happen in the state. Again, really, really early in the process. Given that we're going through the budget process right now, I'm not thinking we'll see a lot of action on that, but I wanted to just highlight that, and details are in your regulatory report. And then one other item I just wanted to highlight is because again, we are going through the budget process right now in the legislature. We're continuing to work on Clean Water Fund monies and are still getting a pretty good reception on that, but we don't have any definitive answer yet on what the legislature is going to do with increasing that revenue bonding authority. But again, we've had good conversations with legislators, and we're very hopeful that they will move forward on our ask, which is the same thing that was in the governor's budget of about $726 million in additional revenue bonding authority. If there's any other questions about any of the information, I'm sorry, one other update I did want to provide. So I noted at the last meeting that the DNR is undertaking a pretty full-scale review of its facility planning rules, so NR 110 and then NR 108, which the district interfaces with whenever there's a facility planning project or sewer extensions. There's an advisory committee going on right now for those rules. The first meeting was on April 23rd, and the plan is to meet every month through at least November to get input on what those rules will look like. It's a pretty robust advisory committee, lots of engineers sitting on the committee. So I'm hopeful that there will be a lot of good feedback to DNR. But if you as a commission have any thoughts on that process, I'll certainly be discussing with district staff. But that's something, that the district, I assume, will want to be involved in going forward. That's it for me. If there's any questions on the rest of the regulatory report, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions? Oh, seeing, thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us future meeting schedule. Amanda mentioned that Wednesday special meeting in June. Full session we don't have. And so any future agenda topics? The only thing might be if staff ever has ideas on the facility treatment plan that the DNR is going through that the commission should weigh in on. Yeah, so maybe something okay. Agenda, any other business? Adjournment? Ken, you're waiting to say something?
Commissioner Clark, motion to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Clark, second by
Commissioner Freeze.
Second by Commissioner Freeze. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.